Hi guys, and welcome back to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to do a breakfast recipe. Probably could be a dessert recipe too. So this is out of Deep Run Roots, Vivian Howard's cookbook, and we're going to do a blueberry-rosemary breakfast pudding. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in my cookbook holder. And I have everything all set up for my first step, which is to cut up the bread and combine it with blueberries, rosemary, and lemon zest in a big bowl. So I'm supposed to cut this up into 1-inch pieces. So I have about a half of a loaf. This is sourdough bread that we made. We had a half a loaf in the freezer from a while back to make French toast or whatever with, and then this is what we needed to make the 14 ounces that she asks for in this recipe, and this was freshly made today. So a little bit of old and new in this just to make the right amount. So I've got the bread all cut up, about 1-inch dice here, not too important exactly how big it is. And I have my blueberries. I've measured these out. You can actually measure solids in a liquid measure. The volumetric measurements are the same no matter whether it's dry or a liquid measure. It's just much easier to get like an exact scoop of 1 cup of flour, scoop it off in the solid measuring cup versus the liquid ones, but for things like blueberries it doesn't really matter. So just a little tip there. And then in here we have lemon zest and rosemary, and so we're supposed to mix all of this up together just to get it incorporated and sort of mixed up. There we go. And now all I have to do is mix up the eggs and the milk, dairy, to make the custard to go in this. Oh yeah. Go ahead and put this in your buttered casserole dish. This is just a 13x9 casserole dish. And then you can whisk everything up in this bowl because it doesn't really matter, you know, everything's going into the same dish, so it doesn't matter if you've got a little bit of extra in here. So that's what we'll be doing. We're gonna mix this up again later, so it doesn't really matter. So now we're gonna make the custard, basically the custard mixture that goes into our bread. And I neglected to mention, it's Saturday night. We're planning to have this tomorrow for breakfast. You have to let it sit for about an hour to get the bread to soak up everything before you bake it. Or you can leave it in the refrigerator overnight, which is what we plan to do, which is why we're doing this on Saturday night, because we're gonna eat it Sunday morning. So the other thing about this recipe is it calls for 4 medium eggs. I buy large eggs. I just always buy large eggs. According to the internet, 3 medium eggs is about the same as 3 large eggs is about the same as 4 medium eggs. So I'm gonna go with that here because large eggs are what I have on hand, and I'm not gonna buy a dozen medium just for that. So we're cracking our eggs. And we'll give those a little bit of a whisk. Easier to get those broken up first. We've got some heavy cream here. some milk. This is whole milk. You could probably use whatever kind you normally have, but I think it calls for the whole milk. And then we're also going to add salt. Some vanilla. And sugar. So I don't know how sweet this is going to be, whether it would be, you know, better as a dessert or better as a breakfast. My half cup measure doesn't fit into my... There we go. So about a half a cup of sugar. I don't know how sweet it's going to be because I haven't tried this before, but you know, it's like French toast. So bread. All right. So now all I have to do is put this with the bread. Bread here. I'm gonna just pour this all over the bread cubes with the blueberries and the rosemary and the lemon zest. And I'm just gonna use this. All my sugar didn't get quite dissolved, so make sure we have all of it out of there. And then I'm just going to cover this. I'm going to kind of play around with it a little bit so all of the bread meets the custard mixture. But I'm going to cover it and put it in the refrigerator overnight. And we'll see you tomorrow morning before we bake it. That's it for tonight. Now it's Sunday morning. We're gonna be ready to eat real soon. I need to go ahead and make a sugar topping to put on top of the breakfast pudding, which is just nutmeg and sugar. So I'm gonna go ahead and I have these whole nutmeg pieces that, you know, I just use the same microplane grater. I'm gonna kind of estimate the amount that it's supposed to be, and then I'm gonna measure it just to make sure I don't get too much, because nutmeg can be a little overpowering, especially when it's fresh. So check that. I think that's close enough, especially for super fresh nutmeg. And now I'm going to add sugar, and we're just going to mix that up. All right, so I've got my breakfast pudding out of the refrigerator, and you're supposed to give it another stir so all the dry bits aren't just up on top. It gets it all back incorporated, because the stuff on the bottom has been soaking in the egg mixture all night. The stuff on top might have gotten a little bit dry. Get the dry bits a little more soaked. All right, now flatten that out. And just sprinkle all of this sugar on top. She says that it will make it, you know, give it a nice crispy top, which, you know, sugar caramelizes in the oven and it'll be nice and crispy and delicious. So there's an awful lot of this, so I should be more generous than I was. Certainly smell the nutmeg. And there we go. I'm gonna shake it around a little bit. All right, now this goes into a 350-degree oven for 1 hour or until it's brown and firm throughout. So we'll be back. My blueberry rosemary breakfast pudding is out of the oven now. It's actually been about 80 minutes. I checked it at an hour. It was starting to brown, but wasn't nearly as brown as what's on the picture in the book. And it was a little wobbly still, and she said it should be firm throughout. So I left it in, I checked it at 10 minutes, and then another 5 minutes. So it's been about 80 minutes. You can see it's pretty brown, not very wobbly, and it smells delicious. I can't wait to dig in. We're gonna let it cool a little bit because these things usually take a while to cool down, and you want to serve this warm, but I'm gonna heat up some leftover steak to have with this, a little extra protein to have with it, and by then it should be ready to eat. So we've just made the Blueberry-Rosemary breakfast pudding from the Deep Run Roots cookbook. And we had it for brunch today. And I have to tell you, my kids did not like it. My son, who really enjoys blueberries, didn't want to eat it. My daughter, who I know does not like blueberries, didn't want to eat it. They ate it. They did not enjoy it. So I probably won't be making this specific recipe again, but we thought it was delicious. The adults in the room all thought it was delicious. You could definitely taste the lemon. I didn't get very much of the rosemary, which I was interested, that sort of interested me because I really expected it to be, you know, more rosemary flavored, but I didn't get very much of it. But all in all, I thought it was delicious. It was certainly sweet enough to be a dessert and not just a breakfast. And it was sweet enough that we didn't feel the need to add any syrup or anything like that, like we might normally if we make baked French toast. We usually add syrup. So it was really good. It was actually very easy, cutting up the bread, mixing up the custard, and then leaving it in the refrigerator overnight. So that most of the time, the hands-on time is actually hands-off time. You mix a bunch of stuff up and leave it. If my kids loved it, I would certainly make it again, but they honestly don't like this sort of thing in general. So maybe I'll make it as a dessert next time we have, you know, more people over. So if you enjoyed cooking with us or with me, you should go ahead and subscribe. There should be a link right there if you haven't yet. Like the video, hit the bell when you subscribe, and it'll tell you when I post a new video. It will give you notifications. And let me know if you liked this recipe. If you made it and liked it, let me know. If you have made other things in this book and loved them or didn't like them, let me know. If you have questions. And also, if there's another book that you might want to see me cook something from, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.